People seem to have an oddly hard time forgiving themselves. A lot of people conflate forgiveness with approval. If they forgive themselves for whatever it is that they did, that they're basically giving themselves a free pass to do that thing again and again and again for the rest of their lives, and it's just gonna be okay. I'm not exactly sure where this version of forgiveness came from, maybe movies or some shit like that, but it is a terrible definition of forgiveness, and it will keep you trapped in a lot of grudges, in a lot of self-judgment, and in a lot of really terrible experiences that you really don't need to be in. What up, everybody? Welcome back to Operation Moksha. As always, I'm your host, Chris Roscoe, and today we're going to be talking about forgiveness. What forgiveness is, how it differs from approval, as well as how you can start to access it in your life to make things a lot more enjoyable and a lot less internally cramped and shitty. First, I want to talk about what forgiveness actually is and how it differs from approval. A lot of people have a hard time forgiving themselves because they have this view of forgiveness that it means like, it's okay that you did what you did. I don't mind anymore. It's okay. Keep doing it. I'll be fine. It does kind of mean that in some contexts, but for bigger things, we almost want to hold a grudge as if we think that that's how we're going to teach the person a lesson and how we're going to get anything done other than suffering. There's this really great quote from Buddhism. It described to the Buddha, but I doubt he actually said it. Holding a grudge is like swallowing poison or swallowing a hot stone, depending on which version of the quote you're getting, and expecting it to hurt another person. And that's essentially what holding a grudge is, and that's why it's important to be able to forgive. Because forgiveness has nothing to do with approval. There are tons of people that I really don't like and really don't want around me ever again, but I've still forgiven them. There are things that I have done that I never want to do again, and I've still forgiven myself for them. And the reason for that is forgiveness is just choosing not to suffer anymore. It's just letting go of the suffering. And so this is why people, and there's some also like really confusing shit about this, because people say like forgive and forget, which is horrible advice. Like, yes, forgive, but don't forget. Like, forget is when you make yourself stupidly open to really dumb things that you shouldn't be open to. I had an old roommate who was stealing from me. And like, yes, I forgave him because I just didn't want to be mad at him anymore. There was no point in staying mad because all that was going to do was hurt me. But instead, I didn't forget, right? I forgave, but I didn't forget. So that the next time it happened, I was like, okay, that's 2 strikes, dude. You got to get the fuck out. We ain't friends no more. That's something important, is because if you do the forgetting part, that is essentially kind of blinding yourself and saying like, it's okay. I'm just going to like naively live my life and you can do whatever you want to do and I'll forgive and forget because I'm a fucking idiot. And like, that's not a good way to do things. Instead, what I recommend doing is forgiving them just so you don't have to hate them anymore. That's all forgiveness is. Forgiveness is just saying, I'm choosing not to be angry at you anymore. I'm not going to forget what you did. I'm not going to approve it. I may not even allow you in my life anymore. Why would I choose to stay angry, especially if I'm never going to see you again? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. And so you really have to understand that forgiveness has nothing to do with approval. Forgiveness has everything to do with you simply choosing to not suffer by being angry anymore. Because not only is holding a grudge just not good for you, it doesn't feel very good, but it's bad for your body. Like, if you hold a grudge, it'll make your face look really shitty when you're older. Because if you're gonna hold a grudge against somebody, you have to hold it in your body somewhere. All of that rage and all that anger and all of that judgment and hatred and all that sort of shit, it doesn't go to the other person. They pretty much have no fucking clue you're doing this, especially if you never talk to them again. Instead, you just seethe and you stay angry and hateful and all kinds of stuff, and you are the only one that suffers. There's no benefit to staying angry at that person. It's not going to teach them any lessons. All you're doing is hurting yourself. So if you want to forgive, you have to understand that it has nothing to do with approval. You can hold your boundaries. You can stay the away from people. Like, I've forgiven everybody who's ever screwed me ever, simply because I didn't have any room in my body for hate and anger anymore. Now you might be asking, okay, how do we actually forgive? We've changed our context around forgiveness. Now, how do we actually do it? Once you understand forgiveness as essentially cessation from your own suffering and releasing you from suffering, then it really stops being about the other person at all. It has everything to do with the pain that you feel, which is why we hold grudges in the first place, is to protect us from ever having to feel that pain ever again. And to remind us of like, yes, this is the thing that hurt, like never allow it. So the only thing that really matters is your own suffering, right? Because that's the point of all this. And so if you want to forgive somebody else, the way to do it is by honoring whatever suffering it is you think they caused. Own it, take responsibility for it. Own that the only reason you can suffer is because some part of you created it. And it's just this person just happened to do something in your environment that triggered a lot of things in you. All right, because forgiveness is also about taking responsibility. And I know this is very, very sensitive for a lot of people for a lot of good reasons. There's good reasons for this to be sensitive. And so I want to outline that there's a huge distinction between fault and responsibility. right? Like there are bad things that happen to people. There are bad people out there that do bad things to good people. If you are one of those good people that had a bad thing happen to you, I'm not suggesting that it was your fault. I would never say that. I'm not saying that is not your fault. Healing and forgiving and becoming whole again and stopping the suffering from what happened is your responsibility. Not that you should do it, but you are literally the only one capable. There is no one in this world who is capable of taking your suffering away. There is no one in this world who is capable of facing it for you. It just can't be done. You are the only person who can do it. You are the only person who can turn inwardly, look at all those different parts of your personality, acknowledge their suffering, and begin to take care of them yourself. No one else can do it for you. That is something that only you can do, and therefore it is your responsibility, which again is not your fault. It's not something that you should do, and you're a bad person if you don't. You get to take your time, especially depending on, what might have happened to you. However, it is your responsibility only because no one else can do it. It's just simply I can't do it. No one else can do it for you. You're the only one who can. So that's the distinction between fault and responsibility. So no matter how badly somebody's wronged you, your emotions as a result are your responsibility simply because no one else can do anything about it for you. So once you understand that no matter what happened externally, your responses and your level of suffering in relationship to that thing is ultimately up to you, and is you're the only one responsible enough to be able to deal with it, then it simply becomes a matter of, how am I relating to the part of me that was hurt by whatever happened? Like, how much have I actually learned the lesson? How much have I loved myself? How much have I recovered? How much have I allowed myself to heal from this thing that happened so that I don't have to stay angry at the other person? Even if I never want to see them again, how much have I allowed myself to face and feel and express the pain so that I can get it out and have a clean slate and look at whatever happened with clean, clear eyes and not have to hold a bunch of hatred at the thing? That is what it really looks like to forgive somebody else. Now, the question starts to become, well, how do you forgive yourself? And it's very similar. I've done things that I'm not really proud of. I was a very headstrong, angry, kind of shitty, narcissistic teenager. I did some things, I got into a lot of fights. I did a lot of things I'm not necessarily proud of. And the reason I was able to forgive myself is because I understood why. I know why I did those things. I learned the lesson. I know how to avoid them going forward. And therefore, there's no more reason for me to have any emotions about it. Because guilt and shame for certain things are actually really fucking helpful. It's like when a dog pisses on your carpet, and like back in the day, like the thing that you would do was like rub its nose in it and be like, bad dog. Guilt and shame is kind of like it's kind of like God, like rubbing your face in your own and being like, look what you fucking did. If you're willing to face that guilt and if you're willing to face that shame, then you can be like, okay, like, yes, I did something that's out of alignment. I did something I shouldn't have done. The question is, why did I do it? What thoughts drove me to this? What emotions drove me to this? What needs was I trying to get met? And then when you can learn all those sorts of things such that you've integrated the parts of you that caused you to do the bad thing and you trust that you've learned the lesson, then all that guilt and shame and anger no longer has a reason to exist. Right? It's like after you've rubbed the dog's nose in the thing, and it's like, yeah, okay, I know not to do that anymore. It's like you don't keep doing it. The lesson's been learned. There's no point. After you understand what you did, why you did it, and have integrated all the parts associated so that you can trust yourself never to do it again, then it's just a matter of loving yourself and allowing yourself to process all that pain, all that guilt, all that shame, so you can have a clean slate while remembering what you did, why you did it, and all the signs that might push you in that direction again so that you know how to avoid going it forward. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you approve of what you did and you're going to allow it to happen again. It doesn't mean that you approve of what other people did and that you're going to allow them to do that shit again. It means that if it's external, you know what happened, you know, maybe I did something to allow it to happen. I know how to make that not happen again. However, I'm choosing to face the pain associated with it so that I don't have to walk around in pain and anger and hatred all the time. You can keep your distance. You can know that person sucks, but you can just choose to forgive so you don't have to hurt. And if it's a personal thing, then you have to make sure you've actually learned the lesson. Like when I do something that I feel guilt or shame about, first of all, I ask myself if I actually genuinely did anything wrong. And if I did, I fix it. But if I didn't, then I just love that part of me. Like, look, dude, you feel guilty for some reason. You didn't do anything wrong, but you feel guilty. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to let you know that everything's okay until that guilt and shame goes away. However, like I said, there's going to be times where your guilt and shame is actually applicable and you did something out of integrity, in which case you need to know what that thing is, why you did it, and address it in such a way that makes sure that you won't do it again. And from there, then you can start to process the guilt and shame so you can be free of it, trusting that you learned the lesson. Forgiveness is not what a lot of people think it is. We've been trained really horribly about what forgiveness is and why it exists. However, I'm hoping this video has allowed you to see forgiveness in a different way, see it as something a little bit more skillful, see it as a way to stop yourself from suffering while still holding your boundaries, right? Because I don't want you to suffer. Like, especially if somebody's done something really bad to you, like, you deserve to walk forward with a clean slate. Like, if you've genuinely been hurt by someone, the last thing I want for you is to have to walk around for the rest of your life with that pain in hopes to teach someone else a lesson that it probably never will. I'd rather have you get all that shit out. I'd rather have you heal and feel clean and clear while still remembering your boundaries and still remembering how to protect yourself. If you have any more questions about this, let me know, because I can go deeper into all of this. I really want to make sure that this is something accessible that you can all use. So if you have any questions, let me know. However, this is enough to probably get you started. I'm Chris Roscoe. I love you. I'll see you next time.